Almost 3 years ago, I came out with a video titled 5 Times Michael Jordan Sought Revenge, and from what I can remember, you guys seem to really enjoy it, along with the other videos in my Sought Revenge series. And who better to do a part 2 on than the man who kicked off this series, Michael Jordan. So if you're ready to see Jordan take things personal, make sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If there's one thing we knew about Michael Jordan, it was his ability to remember the tiniest things that happened between him and a player from a previous matchup, and use it as motivation for the very next time he would play them. I want to start off this story by talking about the 1997 Eastern Conference Finals between the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat, which was a series between the top 2 seeds in the East that year. Michael Jordan led the Bulls to a 3-0 series lead almost single-handedly. It looked like they were going to sweep their way to the finals. But in Game 4 of that series, however, Jordan would go 0 for 11 from the field in the first half, and it took him a total of 15 field goal attempts before finally making his first shot. And Miami's shooting guard at the time, Vashon Leonard, believes he had something to do with that. Although Jordan did turn it up a little bit towards the end, Miami's lead was just too big that game for the Bulls to come back, as the Heat managed to avoid getting swept. But as we all know, Jordan and the Bulls would bounce back in Game 5 to close out the series. Now, while you could argue that MJ's revenge on Vashon Leonard took place in that Game 5 of the 1997 Eastern Conference Finals, considering he eliminated Leonard and the Heat out of the playoffs, it was actually in the following season in 1998 where Jordan got a proper payback. In fact, Vashon Leonard would piss Jordan off one more time that following season to really seal his fate. It was January 7th, 1998, Chicago visiting Miami. At one point, the Heat had a 25-point lead over the Bulls, so Vashon Leonard thought it was safe to trash talk Jordan. Apparently, Leonard started running his mouth once he knew that his team had the game in the bag. Miami did end up winning by 27 points, but even he knew that he eventually had to pay the price for all the smack he was talking, as MJ is known for taking mental notes. And that day came on March 10th, 1998, just 2 months later. Now, this famous clip might be about BJ Armstrong, but if you listen to what he's saying, it literally applies to Vashon Leonard as well.
Let's see if all that trash talking starts when it's 0-0. That's where it starts. You can talk shit when it's even score, or talk shit when you're behind score. When you're ahead, it's easy to talk.
Right from the jump, Jordan was giving him an earful, really letting him hear it.
Michael Jordan is torching Vashon Leonard verbally and physically. What is he telling Vashon Leonard? You can't guard me. Not tonight, and why are you even trying?
And proceeded to back up that trash talk.
Right now, Michael Jordan is punishing him for those words.
Jordan finished with a game-high 37 points, leading the Bulls to a 106-91 victory. By the end of the night, Vashon Leonard realized that he made a terrible mistake by saying this in their previous meeting.
Vashon Leonard hit a big 3 over you and started doing some trash talking. After the game, you said, I'd like to see you guard me by yourself one-on-one. What'd you tell him tonight?
Well, last game when we played, he said, let's go one-on-one. They were 25 points up. I said, let's start right from scratch, 0-0. Let's go one-on-one, see who scored all the points.
It's no secret that Jordan would famously make things up in his head that didn't even happen, just to keep himself motivated. For example, the LaBradford Smith story that we all learned about from the Last Dance documentary.
This never happened. LaBradford Smith never put his arm around Mike and said, nice game, Mike. A couple of writers went up to Michael and said, did this ever happen? And Michael was, with a smile, just like, no, I made it up.
Well, this story involving Walt Williams is kind of similar. Williams didn't even say anything to Jordan, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Jordan imagined it. It's just that the media were the ones who stirred the pot. The date was December 8th, 1996, Bulls versus Raptors. Walt Williams was with Toronto at the time, and going into the first matchup between those two teams that season, Williams found out that he was going to be guarding Jordan, which was something that kind of caught him off guard because that wasn't his usual assignment when going up against the Bulls.
So I'm like, okay, I got Jordan today. And I'm about an inch taller than Jordan as well. So I'm pushing him baseline, and I was bothering his jump shot. And so He ended up not having a good night. I did, and we won the game.
You should mention Michael Jordan, 13 points, scoreless in the second half, and a season-low point total for him, which is not a huge surprise.
As you just heard, MJ ended with only 13 points, while Williams ended the night with 18 points. It was said that the reporters were really letting Michael have it, constantly reminding him of how Walt Williams was playing good defense on him, or at least that's how it appeared. Again, who knows if that was some sort of ploy to get Jordan riled up. So naturally, Jordan circled their next matchup on his calendar, which was a little over a month later. And before tip-off, this happened.
And so we get out there right before the tip happens. Jordan looks over at me and he said, "Yeah, I remember that trash you was talking last game." You know, I'm like, "Hey, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's get ready. Let's go." But inside, I was thinking, man, I didn't say anything. That was the reporters. That was not me. He was on a mission that game. He gave me like about 44, I believe, that next one. And he didn't even play in the fourth quarter, man.
Taking it out on him for something that the media fabricated. Whether Williams deserved it or not, in his head, MJ still got his revenge. I'm sure we can all agree that Gary Payton is one of the greatest trash talkers of all time, but it looks like he got a little too ahead of himself when he first entered the league, leading to his welcome to the NBA moment. Back when Payton was just a rookie in the year 1990, he went up against Jordan and the Bulls in a preseason game, but apparently Payton put a little too much stock in this preseason game and wound up talking trash to Jordan. The game itself might have been meaningless, again because it was in the preseason, but Gary Payton's choice words definitely meant something to Jordan, and made sure to remember that for the next time they played each other in the regular season, where it really counts. Reportedly, Jordan refused to shake Payton's hand before the game, and from here, I'll just let Gary Payton himself take over.
Yeah, I was talking shit to him in preseason. You know, I didn't know that they don't play in preseason.
Right.
So I'm killing him. Had about 21. He played about 7 or 8 minutes. Then all of a sudden, we got to play him in the first game of the regular season. He come to Seattle. First thing he get on the floor, he was like, "Pip, Armstrong, the young fella, he mine all night." Let me bust his ass all night. And he's like, "This ain't preseason." Man, he remembered it, man. And then all of a sudden, after the game, he was like, "Welcome to the NBA."
Jordan put up 33 points, while Gary Payton had just 2 points, showing that even trash-talking Jordan in the preseason will lead to consequences. Back in 1994, Glenn Robinson was selected #1 overall in that year's NBA draft. It was clear from the start that he was a gifted scorer, averaging 22 points per game his rookie season. And lucky for him, Michael Jordan just so happened to make his comeback near the end of his rookie season. It was fairly obvious that MJ wasn't exactly in the best basketball shape after returning in 1995 following his baseball stint. He definitely had his moments, but you could tell he still had some rust to shake off. On April 23rd, 1995, the Chicago Bulls matched up against the Milwaukee Bucks in the last game of the regular season. Prior to this meeting, Milwaukee won the season series, but those weren't against MJ, because again, he wouldn't come back until there was only a handful of games left. And just like those earlier matchups, Glenn Robinson came to play. He took advantage of the fact that Jordan wasn't back to his full self yet, scoring 36 points in a Bucks victory. The rookie came out on top in his first ever game against the GOAT. Fast forward to the next season, everything was back to normal. Jordan ditched the number 45 and went back to 23, while having a full training camp and preseason under his belt that got him back into game shape. Remember, Jordan would try to find anything to hold against you, and he sure as hell didn't forget what the rookie did to him and his Bulls in the last game of the regular season the year prior.
Anyway, it was a big article in the paper, you know, big dog, you know, the rookie, he outscored Mike, this and that. Fellas, it was like he read that shit.
Next game, he had to make a point.
It was like he read that, man.
I gotta make an example.
On December 9th, 1995, sophomore year Glenn Robinson finally got to face the number 23 Jordan, and the results were different this time. Now, Glenn definitely held his own by putting up 39 points. However, MJ won the battle by dropping 45 points, and of course, taking home the W as well. Another thing that was pretty scary about Jordan was his ability to flip a switch and level up his performance at any given moment. And he did just that on April 20th, 1996. At that point in the season, the Bulls had already broken the 1972 Lakers record for the most regular season wins in a single season. So the only thing that was left for them to really shoot for was the all-time record for the most home wins in a single season, which was held by the 1985-86 Boston Celtics at the time.
One record on the line today. Chicago trying to equal the Boston Celtics' best home record of all time.
They thought they might as well go for that record too, but it wasn't looking too good towards the end of the game, as Chicago was down by 8 points with just under 2 minutes left. That was until Eddie Johnson just had to open his mouth.
Hey, I remember standing at the free throw line and I looked at him. I said, why don't you go sit down? Game's over. I said, y'all not getting this record. And he looked at me. We were up 8 points with about a minute and a half left. The next minute, I'm telling you, he played like it was game 7.
Eddie Johnson made the costly mistake of trash-talking Jordan before the game was officially over, and his Pacers teammates were not too happy with him during a timeout.
And all of a sudden, it was a 1-point game. So Larry Brown called timeout, and we go to the bench, and I think one of my teammates said, did you say something to him, Jay? I said, yeah. I said, I told the game was over. And Larry Brown heard it, and Larry was like, why would you do that?
For the next minute and a half, he lost his mind.
But fortunately for the Pacers, they managed to just barely escape by the skin of their teeth due to a questionable call at the end. They seriously dodged a bullet.
I had 2 free throws to seal the victory, and he was just mad. And he was walking off the court, and he and I was like crossing paths. I said, man, what is wrong with you? And he said, just be careful what you ask for.